This is my quick review of the new original anime Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy Siege show on Netflix. If you haven't seen the show, be warned, spoilers are up ahead, so please pause this video, watch the show, and then come back and watch this video review. So I'd like to share with everybody my first impressions, my reaction, and what I really got from the show, both the good and the bad. Spoiler warning, fair warning. If you're still here, then you must have seen the show. Let's get right to it. The show was absolutely amazing. It's composed of 6 episodes, about under half an hour each, and the whole season takes place on Cybertron. The war rages on and ends with a departure from Cybertron. My very first impressions about it is, if you watched Transformers Prime and you grew up watching the 1980s Generation 1 cartoons, this show is sort of like a fusion of G1 meets Transformers Prime. It was edgy, it was a little bit dark because in Cybertron, and yet you get that feel of the 80s Transformers cartoon right smack in the middle of Cybertron, and I love it. The first thing you will notice are the voices. The voices are not the exact actors they used for G1, but they sure sound so similar to the G1 voices that the voices of Optimus Prime, Starscream, and Soundwave just gave me the chills. Megatron was probably the only odd one out, which didn't seem to sound like G1. Megatron was sort of more like a Beast Wars voice, Beast Wars Megatron combined with Transformers Prime, maybe a little bit of Transformers Animated. It was very deep voice, not the Frank Welker raspy, high-pitched voice. So it was great. The animation, the aesthetics of the entire show was so toy accurate. I could not believe it. All those pegs you see right there on the toys, all the panels right there, they were on the show. And it was amazing. So it was a very simple story, a little bit on the repetitive side of always just trying to end the war on Cybertron, trying to move on, Decepticons trying to decimate all the Autobots so that the war would end, while the Autobots trying to defeat Megatron so that the war will end. So it was a little bit repetitive in that sense, that everyone's just trying to end the war, and yet they kept on fighting. The whole series draws a lot of inspiration from Cybertronian mythology, both that we've seen in Transformers Prime, in the G1 cartoon, and even in the comic books. You get to see Autobots versus Decepticons, with the war beginning when Optimus Prime opposed Megatron's rule. It was very classic G1 Transformers. You get a lot of ideas and elements in the series that were inspired by the G1 mythology. You get Alpha Trion, you get the Guardians like Omega Supreme, you get the whole idea of Energon as their fuel, you get the Ark, you get Space Bridge. I mean, even the design of the Space Bridge was a combined design of the original G1 and the tunnel space bridge of Transformers Prime. You get the idea of the Allspark. Even some of the scenes in some of the episodes were taken and derived from the G1 scenes, like Wheeljack and Bumblebee. They start out the first episode together, which is what happened in sort of that Cybertronian scene where Wheeljack and Bumblebee were trying to get Energon on Cybertron. Same thing that happened here. It is a nice parallelism, nice little Easter egg for those who grew up watching the 80s show. You get to see Optimus Prime and Megatron fighting it out. First few scenes in the first episode. A little bit disappointed with Optimus Prime, as he wasn't as definitive as the Autobot leader who will crush any Decepticon. I guess this was part of his younger years. He just got probably the matrix of leadership. He just started the war, and he wasn't the great Optimus Prime yet. He was the good commander of the Autobots. So I was a little bit disappointed with that, but that was fine. You get to see a lot more inspired scenes from G1, like how Jetfire betrays the Decepticons and joins the Autobots. From the comic books, you get Impactor joining the Autobots, Starscream being promoted as second in command or leader of the Seekers. A lot of those are from the G1 mythology. A couple of things though that were new to me were, apart from the Matrix of Leadership, there were what is called the Alpha Trion protocols. Now apparently Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus had shared the Autobot leadership roles, and courage, bravery, and all that power came with the Matrix of Leadership, which Optimus Prime was given. While Alpha Trion had bestowed, because they agreed to share leadership, Alpha Trion had bestowed the Alpha Trion protocols to Ultra Magnus, which would then be passed on to another Autobot if Ultra Magnus had died. The same way the Matrix would have been passed on had Optimus Prime died. And this Alpha Trion protocols was really something new to me because it was supposed to be the collected knowledge of Cybertronians throughout millennia, and it's that knowledge that is imparted with the person who has the protocols so that you have enough wisdom, knowledge, and know-how to win new battles. So it's like they separated the whole idea of the Matrix, that the leadership of the Autobots, the core essence of Cybertronian greatness, had been split into two, which was sort of a new concept for me, but I do like it. If you enjoyed the Transformers Bumblebee movie, that is exactly the same kind of feeling you're gonna get after watching this series. You feel that somebody had done justice to your childhood favorite show, favorite group of robots, transforming robots. And it was this kind of simplicity that really made this show great, in my opinion. I mean, I can't imagine how Michael Bay could have ruined the whole Transformers franchise by overthinking how the movie should look like. A good series is dependent on a good story, great characters, and a lot of inspiration from the original material, which I think the Transformers movies had severely deviated from. Going back to Transformers Bumblebee, I think the director really made a wonderful job in writing a love letter to the fans of Transformers from the 80s. And that's what happened in this series. It's exactly the same feeling. It's exactly the same kind of treatment you get as with Transformers Bumblebee. It is a love letter to those who really enjoyed Transformers back in the 80s, coupled with some modern adaptations, such as inspiration from Transformers Prime, Transformers Animated, Beast Wars, and whatnot. And what's interesting is they set up the whole series so that at the end of Siege, the departure of the Autobots from Cybertron, I'm not going to explain too much how that happened because I'm not going to spoil you guys too much, but that sets up the sequel, the next chapter in the War for Cybertron trilogy, which is Earthrise. And if you've watched the Transformers shows one too many times, you already know that what's going to happen is the Autobots are going to move from Cybertron to the Earth. And this was a great parallel to what happened in Generation 1, where the Autobots were fleeing Cybertron. They were trying to look for a new energy source. In this case, they sent the Allspark out of Cybertron, and they rode the Ark and moved the battle away from Cybertron onto a new planet. I was really half expecting at the end of the show that we'd see the Decepticons board a ship and follow the Autobots, just like what happened in the old 80s cartoon. But as an epilogue to this show, deep in space, Teletran 1 on the Ark warns the Autobot crew of an unidentified aircraft. Now, my thoughts on those, it could be the Decepticons, logically speaking, it could be the Decepticons following the Autobots, or it could be something else. Maybe Unicron, maybe, I don't know. But it's a wonderful play on the mythology that has been built up for the last 35 years, going on 40 years, and I really, really enjoyed this show. This show is going to get a 10 out of 10 for me. I wanted to give it a 9 out of 10 because there were some parts that were dragging, but to me, it is a perfect series. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about the show, and as always, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.